At the heart of this unsettling story were three individuals whose lives were deeply connected: Ezra Blackwood, a respected widower and successful businessman; his son, Liam Blackwood, who struggled in the shadow of his father's achievements; and Melody Sinclair, a striking woman with a fierce ambition and a troubled history. The residents of Oakwood Heights remained blissfully unaware that beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary lives, a storm was gathering, one destined to bring forth a whirlwind of passion, betrayal, and tragedy. Ezra Blackwood had always commanded attention. Born in 1955 to a middle-class family, Ezra Blackwood rose to prominence through relentless determination and a knack for identifying opportunities where others saw barriers. By his early 30s, he had established Blackwood Innovations, a tech company that would later become a Fortune 500 powerhouse. Yet this professional triumph came with significant personal sacrifices. Ezra's relentless pursuit of success had strained his relationship with his wife, Evelyn, and their son, Liam. It wasn't until Evelyn's tragic passing from cancer in 2010 that he fully grasped the depth of what he had lost in chasing his ambitions. Overwhelmed by guilt and sorrow, Ezra made efforts to reconnect with Liam in the years that followed. Ezra lavished his son with financial support and business opportunities, hoping to make up for lost time. However, the emotional distance created over years of neglect was hard to overcome. As he approached his late 60s, Ezra felt an overwhelming loneliness settling in. Despite his wealth and status, Ezra longed for authentic connections. This hidden vulnerability would soon draw him into a dangerous situation. Growing up in the shadow of Ezra Blackwood was challenging for his son, Liam. Liam had spent much of his life trying to establish his own identity apart from his father's towering success. Despite attending prestigious schools, he found it hard to navigate the professional landscape. He had tried several ventures, including a failed restaurant, a brief tech startup, and, most recently, a moderately successful online marketing agency. However, nothing he pursued seemed to match the immense legacy of Blackwood Innovations. Liam's insecurities, shaped by years of feeling inadequate, led to bouts of depression and a persistent sense of being a fraud that affected his relationships. That changed when he met Melody Sinclair at a local coffee shop in 2021, sparking a glimmer of hope in his life. Her energy and steadfast belief in his abilities reignited a sense of purpose in Liam. For the first time in years, he envisioned a future free from the pressure of his father's legacy. As their connection deepened, Liam began to share the complexities of his relationship with Ezra, finding solace in Melody's understanding. He opened up about his frustrations, fears, and his longing for genuine approval from his father. Unbeknownst to him, confiding in Melody was unknowingly laying the groundwork for a betrayal that would shake his world to its core. Beneath Melody Sinclair's radiant smile and sharp wit was a history marked by struggle and strength. Born to a teenage mother and an absent father in a small Pennsylvania town, Melody learned early on that survival required adaptability. Her childhood was filled with transient homes and brief friendships as her mother moved from one relationship to another. Despite this instability, Melody thrived academically, seeing education as her pathway to a brighter future. She worked tirelessly, securing scholarships that enabled her to leave her hometown for college in Boston. During her university years, Melody's ambition flourished. Balancing multiple part-time jobs while excelling in her studies, she was fueled by a relentless drive for success and a longing for stability. After graduation, she secured a position at a prestigious marketing firm, swiftly advancing thanks to her sharp intellect and charm. Meeting Liam Blackwood opened a door to the wealth and influence she had always desired. While she was genuinely attracted to his kind nature and vulnerability, a part of her was also captivated by the power the Blackwood name promised. As she became increasingly involved in the Blackwood family, Melody faced choices that would challenge her loyalty, ambition, and humanity. The turning point came on a crisp autumn evening at the annual Blackwood Innovations Charity Gala. Dressed in a stunning emerald gown, she attended with Liam, stepping into a world filled with the elite and their glitzy lifestyles. As Liam nervously navigated conversations with potential investors, Melody found herself captivated by Ezra Blackwood. With his impeccably styled hair and tailored tuxedo, he radiated a magnetic charm that she couldn't ignore. Their discussion flowed effortlessly, touching on art, literature, and travel subjects that Liam, despite his warmth, often overlooked. As the evening wore on, Melody couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between father and son. Where Liam was hesitant and self-effacing, Ezra was confident and commanding. In the weeks that followed, Melody found herself thinking of Ezra more and more. In the quiet of the study, Melody and Ezra exchanged casual conversation, but the atmosphere soon grew charged with an unspoken tension. She rationalized her curiosity, convincing herself it was just intrigue about Liam's father. However, when Ezra complimented her in a way that felt more intimate than appropriate, Melody felt the pull of something deeper. The boundaries of their relationship were subtly shifting, and she couldn't deny the thrill it gave her. Melody froze for a moment, her mind racing. The intensity in Ezra's gaze was impossible to ignore. As much as she knew this was crossing a line, the vulnerability in his words and the excitement of the forbidden stirred something in her. Their eyes locked, and in that fleeting moment, the weight of their decisions hung in the air, threatening to shatter the delicate balance of their worlds. Melody felt her heart race as she confessed she had the same feelings. In that brief, intense moment, they crossed a line that neither of them could step back from. What started as quick glances and subtle touches soon turned into secret meetings and intense moments together. They met in hidden cafes, quiet parks, and eventually even in Ezra's own home while Liam was away for work. Ezra was caught between the thrill of their affair and the guilt that weighed on him. He understood the depth of his betrayal not just to his son, but also to the memory of his late wife. The energy Melody brought into his life was irresistible. After years of being recognized only as a thriving entrepreneur or a mourning husband, he now felt noticed just as himself. Melody, on the other hand, was also wrestling with her own mix of emotions. She appreciated Liam and was thankful for the security and love he provided. But Ezra stirred something deep within her, a drive and excitement that both excited and scared her. With Ezra, she could picture the life she'd always imagined, full of luxury, stimulating conversations, and influence. As their affair intensified, both Ezra and Melody became skilled at living dual lives. They perfected the act of deceit, creating convincing excuses and keeping up appearances when around Liam. But with every lie, the weight of their secret became harder to bear, threatening to overwhelm them. Unbeknownst to them, their carefully built facade was on the brink of collapse, ready to bring devastating consequences for everyone involved. The first indication that something was wrong appeared in Melody's changing behavior. Liam, always sensitive to her feelings, picked up on a new sense of restlessness in her. She appeared lost in thought during their talks, her mind clearly preoccupied. When Liam asked what was troubling her, Melody would dismiss his concerns with a light laugh and swiftly shift the topic. Soon after, she began to have unexplained absences. Melody, who had always been meticulously on time, started arriving late for their dates. She offered vague excuses about work issues or traffic, but her stories felt off. Liam struggled to push down the growing doubts, attributing his suspicions to his own insecurities. As the weeks passed, the inconsistencies grew more difficult to overlook. There were whispered phone calls that quickly ended when Liam walked in, and mysterious text messages that Melody deleted in a hurry. One time he caught a hint of an unfamiliar cologne on her scarf, a scent that triggered a vague memory he couldn't fully grasp. Liam's paranoia started to consume him. He began obsessively checking Melody's social media for hints of her whereabouts. Night after night, he would wake up with his mind racing, filled with imagined scenarios of betrayal. The trust that had once been the foundation of their relationship was gradually crumbling, replaced by a nagging suspicion that threatened to overwhelm him. In a moment of vulnerability, Liam shared his fears with his father. Ezra, feigning concern, urged his son to have an honest conversation with Melody. Maybe there's a straightforward reason for her behavior, he suggested. The irony in his words, tinged with deception, went unnoticed by Liam. Despite his struggle with lying, Liam decided to approach the topic with Melody, however, with the skill acquired from weeks of deceit. She skillfully deflected his inquiries. She accused him of being too possessive and reminded him of all she had sacrificed to be with him. Overwhelmed with guilt, Liam apologized repeatedly and promised to be more trusting. But the seed of doubt had taken root and continued to flourish. Liam began to observe other strange behaviors, how his father and Melody exchanged knowing glances, sharing inside jokes he wasn't part of, and how their eyes lingered on each other a moment too long during family gatherings. Unable to dispel his suspicions, Liam resolved to take matters into his own hands. He started meticulously tracking Melody's movements, keeping a detailed log of her comings and goings. Under the pretense of a security update, he installed a tracking app on her phone. He even hired a private investigator, a choice that left him feeling both ashamed and resolute. As Liam dug deeper into his investigation, he remained oblivious to the tangled web of deceit he was uncovering, one that would reveal a truth more painful than he ever expected. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change their lives forever. That fateful day arrived on a sweltering August afternoon. Liam, acting on a lead from his private investigator, had called in sick to work and followed Melody as she left their apartment. His heart pounded as he trailed her car, not to her office as she had claimed, but to a hidden beachfront property on the edge of town. A sinking feeling washed over him as he recognized the house. It was one of his father's numerous real estate investments, a location Ezra frequently used for business retreats. As Liam watched Melody's car pull into the driveway, a familiar black Mercedes, his father's, appeared, partially concealed behind a large oak tree. In that moment, Liam's world tilted dramatically. He sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned white. As he struggled to process the implications of what he was witnessing, part of him longed to drive away, to forget this betrayal ever happened. But a more instinctual part pushed him to stay and confront the truth. With legs that felt heavy, Liam approached the house. The front door swung open easily. They clearly hadn't anticipated any interruptions in their private retreat. As he entered the cool interior, Liam heard their voices floating from the upstairs bedroom's soft laughter, intimate whispers, and the unmistakable sounds of passion. Each step up the stairs felt like wading through quicksand, heavy and suffocating. When he finally reached the bedroom door, Liam hesitated, his hand resting on the doorknob. In that moment, he understood that opening that door would alter everything forever. Taking a deep breath, he turned the handle and stepped inside. The scene that met Liam's eyes would be etched in his memory forever. His father and girlfriend, entwined in a passionate embrace, froze at his unexpected arrival. For a moment, time stood still as the three of them stared at each other in stunned silence. Melody was the first to react, quickly pulling the bedsheet around herself, her face a blend of guilt and fear. Ezra, regaining his composure, stood up, his expression shifting from shock to a confusing mix of defiance and shame. Liam's heart raced. Ezra started to speak, his voice unusually unsure, but before he could finish, Liam's composure crumbled. Years of pent-up resentment, insecurity, and now this raw betrayal erupted in a primal roar of anguish and rage. Liam unleashed his anger, directing his fury at both his father and Melody. Though his eyes were locked on Ezra, Liam lashed out with words, demanding how his father could betray him in such a way. Turning to Melody, his voice trembled with emotion as he voiced his feelings of love and betrayal. Overwhelmed, Melody reached out to him, desperate to connect. Through her tears, she begged for a chance to explain, insisting that things weren't as they seemed. But Liam was too consumed by rage to hear her. In his fury, he knocked over a lamp, the crash of shattering glass echoing in the charged silence. Liam's bitter laughter echoed in the room as he sarcastically questioned what else he was supposed to think. Finding his girlfriend in bed with his father, Ezra tried to diffuse the tension. He approached Liam, asking to discuss the matter calmly and insisting they never meant to hurt him. This statement only fueled Liam's anger further. He shot back, demanding to know what outcome they had anticipated from their actions. As the confrontation escalated, the room transformed into a battleground of raw emotions. Accusations flew, voices rising to a fever pitch. Consumed by his rage, Liam started to throw objects around the room, a book, a vase, anything he could grab. Ezra's patience finally broke as he shouted back at Liam. He justified his actions, saying that Melody made him feel truly alive in a way that Liam and his mother never had. The mention of Liam's deceased mother pushed him past his breaking point. Liam furiously defended his mother's memory, declaring that Ezra had never deserved either her or Melody. Caught in the middle, Melody desperately tried to calm both men, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. The argument spiraled out of control as father and son began to dig up years of unresolved issues. They hurled accusations at each other, bringing up favoritism, neglect, and feelings of inadequacy, all woven together with the raw pain of betrayal. In a moment of clarity amid the chaos, Liam understood that he needed concrete evidence of this betrayal. He feared that without proof, Ezra's influence and Melody's manipulation would twist the narrative, painting him as nothing more than a jealous, irrational boyfriend. Liam's eyes landed on his phone, left on a nearby dresser when he entered the room. In that moment, he made a decision that would change all their lives forever. He declared his intention to expose both Ezra and Melody, vowing that everyone would learn the truth about who they really were as he reached for his phone. As Liam's fingers tightened around his phone, a look of panic crossed Ezra's face. In that instant, the older man understood the gravity of what his son was about to do. The scandal could destroy him, his reputation, his business, everything he had built over the decades. In a moment of blind panic and self-preservation, Ezra lunged forward. His demeanor shifted from anger to sheer desperation as he cried out, his voice hoarse and filled with fear. He vehemently protested against Liam's threat to expose their actions, clearly terrified of the potential fallout. The sudden shift in Ezra's tone exposed the depths of his fear, revealing how much he stood to lose if the truth came out, hinting at consequences that stretched far beyond their immediate family drama. Time seemed to slow as Ezra's hands made contact with Liam's chest. It wasn't a forceful shove, but a desperate attempt to prevent Liam from recording. Caught off guard by the sudden movement, Liam stumbled backward. The bedroom led to a small balcony that overlooked the beach. The balcony door stood open, allowing the sea breeze to flow through, its sheer curtains billowing softly. As Liam stumbled, his lower back hit the railing. For a brief moment he teetered on the edge, arms flailing as he struggled to regain his balance. Ezra and Melody watched in horror, frozen in place, as Liam's center of gravity shifted just too far. Surprise washed over his face as he fell backward over the railing. A strangled cry escaped his lips, echoing through the air as he plummeted 3 stories down, his body hitting the concrete patio below with a sickening thud. Melody's scream pierced the air, breaking the stunned silence that followed Liam's fall. Ezra stood frozen, his face pale, unable to grasp what had just happened. Finally snapping out of his daze, he rushed to the balcony, pushing past Melody. The sight that met him below would haunt him forever. Liam lay motionless on the patio, his body contorted at an unnatural angle, a pool of blood slowly spreading around his head. In that moment, the scene shifted dramatically from chaos to tragedy. In a state of panic, Melody called for an ambulance, her hands trembling as she fumbled for her phone. But Ezra, with a grim understanding, recognized that it was already too late. The way Liam had fallen and landed made it painfully clear that death had been instantaneous. The devastating reality that his only child was gone began to sink in. Amidst the tragedy, a calculating part of Ezra's mind started to churn. He grabbed Melody's wrist, stopping her from making the call. With an unsettling calmness, he urged them to think through their next steps carefully. Melody, shocked and confused, questioned Ezra's behavior, insisting they needed to get help. Ezra, his voice wavering with emotion, explained that while it was too late for Liam, calling for help now would likely send both of them to prison. As they faced this moral dilemma, the sound of approaching sirens pierced the air, likely summoned by a neighbor who had heard Melody scream. Standing on the balcony, Ezra and Melody felt the weight of their actions and the monumental decision before them pressing down. The next few hours unfolded in a blur of flashing lights, probing questions, and hastily crafted lies. By the time the police arrived, Ezra and Melody had managed to compose themselves and agreed on a story. They claimed that Liam had been drinking and accidentally fallen from the balcony during a heated argument about his alcohol use. Drawing on years of experience in business negotiations, Ezra delivered the fabricated tale with convincing anguish and regret. He spoke of Liam's supposed struggles with alcohol, weaving a narrative of a troubled son he had been desperately trying to help. Melody, still visibly shaken, supported his story through tears. The responding officers, recognizing Ezra as a prominent local figure, treated him with a certain deference. They took preliminary statements and cordoned off the area, assuring Ezra that they would conduct a thorough investigation, but it appeared to be a tragic accident. As Liam's body was removed and the initial flurry of activity subsided, Ezra and Melody retreated into the house, the weight of their actions not just the affair, but now this cover-up pressing down on them like a physical burden. "We need to get our story straight," Ezra said, his voice low and urgent. Every detail has to match in the following hours. As shock transformed into a grim determination to evade detection, they meticulously reviewed their narrative, ensuring every aspect aligned perfectly. They pinpointed the exact moment Liam had arrived, what had been said during the supposed argument, and how he had stumbled over the balcony railing. Melody, her face pale and drawn, questioned the morality of their actions. "Shouldn't we just tell the truth?" she asked, her voice trembling. Ezra fixed her with a steely gaze. "And then what?" he demanded. "We both go to prison, and Liam is still dead. Is that what you want?" Cowed by his intensity and her own fear of the consequences, Melody reluctantly agreed to stick to the story. As dawn broke, casting a pale light over the scene of the tragedy, Ezra made a series of phone calls. He reached out to his lawyer, setting in motion the machinery to protect himself from any legal repercussions. He contacted his PR team, crafting a statement that would portray Liam as a troubled soul and himself as a grieving father. Meanwhile, Melody scrubbed the house of any evidence of their affair. Stray items of clothing, a forgotten earring, and lipstick on a wine glass were meticulously removed or cleaned. By the time the detectives returned for more thorough questioning, Ezra and Melody were ready. They delivered their statements with the right mix of sorrow and confusion, expertly portraying the grieving father and shocked girlfriend. As the detectives departed, seemingly satisfied with their answers, Ezra and Melody exchanged a look of silent understanding. They had weathered the initial storm, but both knew this was just the beginning. The real test lay ahead in the days and weeks to come as the investigation unfolded and their web of lies faced scrutiny. Detective Amelia Harding studied the crime scene photos spread across her desk, a frown creasing her brow. Something about the Blackwood case felt off to her. On the surface, it seemed like a straightforward accidental death, but years of experience had sharpened Harding's instincts, and those instincts were insisting there was more to the story. She began to dig deeper, meticulously reviewing witness statements and forensic reports. Small inconsistencies began to surface. The angle of Liam's fall didn't align with the narrative of him stumbling drunk over the railing. Moreover, the toxicology report revealed only trace amounts of alcohol in his system, insufficient to significantly impair his balance. Then there were the witness statements. Neighbors reported hearing a man's angry shout just before Liam's fall, but no one mentioned signs of drunken behavior. One neighbor even recalled hearing a woman scream right before the thud of Liam's body hitting the ground, a detail that clashed with Ezra and Melody's version of events. Harding's suspicions intensified as she explored Liam's background. Friends and colleagues described him as someone who, while not completely abstinent, didn't have a drinking problem. His work records showed no evidence of the alcohol abuse Ezra had claimed was troubling his son. As their guilt and paranoia grew, Ezra and Melody started to turn on each other. Minor disagreements escalated into heated arguments, with each blaming the other for their predicament. The trust that had once unified them in their secret affair quickly eroded, replaced by suspicion and resentment. Melody, already teetering on the edge, was the first to crack under the pressure. In a torrent of tears and regret, she confessed to the affair and the events surrounding Liam's death. She recounted the confrontation, the struggle, and the tragic accident that ensued. Upon hearing Melody's confession, Ezra understood that the game was over. His carefully crafted facade crumbled, and in a moment of clarity, he recognized the full weight of his actions. Not only did he grapple with the accidental death of his son, but he also confronted the years of emotional neglect that had brought them here. With a heavy heart, Ezra felt a strange sense of relief as he confessed too, corroborating Melody's account and taking full responsibility for the push that had sent Liam over the balcony. The trial captivated the public, exposing the sordid details of the affair and the tragic confrontation that led to Liam's death. Ezra, once a respected figure in the community, was sentenced to 15 years for manslaughter and obstruction of justice, while Melody received a lighter sentence of 5 years due to her cooperation with the investigation. The verdicts sent shockwaves through their lives and the community, leaving behind a complex web of grief, betrayal, and lost potential. In the end, the truth had emerged, but it offered little solace to those involved. The devastation of loss, betrayal, and shattered trust lingered in the air, leaving behind a landscape forever altered by their choices. Ezra and Melody faced their sentences, haunted by the memories of what they had lost, while the community struggled to reconcile the man they once knew with the tragic reality of his actions. The scars left by that fateful day would remain long after the courtroom drama had faded from public view.